Hello and welcome to Pro-Life Primetime News. Today is Friday, May 17th. I'm Leslie Palma. Pro-lifers who were convicted of violating a federal law that protects abortion sellers were sentenced this week. I'll have all the details in my top story. A study released this week found that chemical abortion is safe and effective even when the pills are mailed to women who have not seen a doctor. I'll do my best to debunk that in Abortion in the News. Joe Biden has accepted former President Donald Trump's challenge to a debate, with the first scheduled for June 27th. But if you're hoping to score a ticket to be in the audience, forget about it. One of Biden's conditions was that only the contenders and the moderator would be present. I'll have more in political news in a nutshell. This week, the mainstream media in Chicago celebrated when a baby born at 22 weeks was able to go home with her parents after 6 months in the NICU. What no stories mentioned was that her parents likely were given the choice to abort her, and that abortion at that stage of development is legal in 23 states and the District of Columbia. Please stay tuned. Pro-life activists convicted in 2023 of violating a federal law that protects abortion businesses were sentenced this week. Lauren Handy received the longest sentence, 57 months. She has been identified as one of the organizers of the October 2020 protest inside the Washington Surgery Center, where notorious late-term abortionist Cesar Santangelo has been killing babies for decades. The protesters convicted with Handy were sentenced to shorter terms. Jonathan Darnell was given 34 months. John Hinshaw received a sentence of 21 months in prison. Gene Marshall was given 24 months, and William Goodman, Herb Garrity, and Joan Andrews Bell each were sentenced to 27 months. All will be given credit for the 9 months they have been incarcerated since their convictions at 2 separate trials. Marshall is 74 years old, and Bell, who has served many jail terms for her pro-life activism, is 76. Heather Idoni, who reportedly suffered a stroke while in custody, will be sentenced May 21st, and Paulette Harlow on May 31st. The pro-lifers are planning to appeal. The only co-defendant who pleaded guilty, Jay Smith, was sentenced in March 2023 to 10 months in prison. Back in 2020, Handy made an appointment for an abortion under a false name and arrived accompanied by other activists who then sat in the cramped waiting room of the facility, singing songs and praying. Joan Andrews Bell and Jean Harlow chained themselves to a chair. The protest was streamed live on Facebook, with Darnell providing the narration. Prosecutors say a nurse working there fell and sprained her ankle when one of the protesters bumped into her, and that a woman who was in active labor was not allowed into an exam room to abort her dead child. Pro-lifers said clinic staffers refused to call an ambulance to help the 2 women. The activists were convicted of criminal conspiracy as well as violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, a 1994 law signed by then-President Bill Clinton that effectively put an end to what pro-lifers describe as abortion rescues. By physically obstructing access to the abortion mill, the rescuers aimed to save as many unborn babies as possible. The activists who went to Santangelo's abortion mill were motivated in part by an undercover video shot by the pro-life group Live Action in 2012. In which Santangelo tells a woman whom he believes has come to him for an abortion at 24 weeks that should her child be born alive, he would take no action to preserve the baby's life. Let's watch some of that video.
Hopefully we'll get the pregnancy out intact, but it doesn't always happen that way. I cut the umbilical cord first, wait for the baby to expire, and then we do it that way. So hopefully the fetus will expire first, and then we'll do the pregnancy termination that way.
Okay. And then how big is the baby?
Your pregnancy at this point is about 24, 25 weeks.
Okay.
So
it's pretty. Like, is it like?
It's about the size of your hand.
So you say you take it out intact?
We tried, yeah, that's the whole reason why we do the dilation today and tomorrow.
Does it ever, like, move or anything when it comes out? Or?
That's why I try and sever the umbilical cord first. And we wait for that to stop pulsing, and that's why the fetus is expired first, so it doesn't.
Okay, so has it ever survived?
After
when it comes out?
Not here, no.
Okay.
No, it could. I mean, if some people go into labor, prior to us, when you do this, what we do is we try and help the cervix dilate, and some people will go into labor before we do the procedure.
Okay.
And that can happen.
Okay.
It's unusual.
And then what do you
Usually at this point in your
What do you
pregnancy is too early to survive usually.
Okay.
It will expire shortly after birth.
But if it did, like what would happen? Like, would I have to take it home or like be responsible for?
I mean, technically, legally we would be obligated to help it, to survive. But, it probably wouldn't. It's all in how vigorously you do things to help a fetus survive at this point. When you have a pregnancy that's 23, 24 weeks, if you're, extra, if you do everything possible to help it survive, there's maybe a 20 to 30% chance that it would survive. If you don't do anything, then, the chances are much, much less.
Because I'm just like so scared of like
Sure,
having to be
sure.
stuck
No,
with the
that's
responsibility.
obviously,
Like, would you make sure that it like
Yeah,
it doesn't
there's
survive?
things you do. Obviously, you're here for a certain procedure, and if your pregnancy were, let's say you went into labor, the membrane's ruptured, and you delivered before we got to the termination part of the procedure here, then we would do things. We would not help it.
Okay.
Let's say we wouldn't intubate.
Okay.
Okay.
So you would make sure.
Yeah, we wouldn't do any extra. It's like
help it.
it would be a person that would be a terminal person in the hospital. Let's say that had cancer. You wouldn't do any extra procedures to help that person survive. They had like do not resuscitate orders.
Okay.
We would do the same things here.
Okay.
Whereas if you were in a hospital in Virginia, let's say, and you went into labor and you went to the hospital and then they saw you deliver, they would do everything possible to help that fetus survive.
Okay, but you won't.
We wouldn't.
Okay.
And that's happened before, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah, where, we've had patients that, on the second day of the Laminaria, they got some contractions and they panicked and they were in Virginia at the hospital and they went to the hospital because they had some pain instead of calling me, and they just went to the hospital and the hospital helped them to deliver, which was the stupidest thing they could have done.
Oh my God.
Which was,
Yeah.
and they did everything they shouldn't have done, which was help them to deliver.
The judge who presided over the activist trial, a Clinton appointee, would not allow that video into evidence for the defense. The day after she was convicted of the FACE Act violation, Handy was found to have the bodies of 5 late-term abortion victims inside her Capitol Hill apartment. She said the driver of a company contracted to dispose of the bodies of aborted babies gave her a box containing the remains of 115 victims, including the 5 who were fully formed and killed in the latest stages of pregnancy in Santangelo's facility. Some of the babies appeared to have been killed by the illegal partial birth abortion technique, and at least one appeared to pro-life medical personnel as possibly having been born alive. No charges have been brought in that case. Priests for Life has been well aware of Santangelo's gruesome abortion practice. In 2018, we did a series of undercover phone calls with Abortion Free New Mexico to prove that late-term procedures were not rare, nor performed only in dire emergencies. This staffer at Santangelo's abortion mill advises a woman about an abortion at 25 or 26 weeks. It's her matter-of-fact tone that is so chilling. Have a listen.
All right, Washington Surgery Clinic.
Hi, I wanted to get some information about scheduling an appointment with you guys for an abortion.
Okay, what would you like to know?
I just wanted to find out how much it would be. I am about 25 weeks pregnant.
Okay, do you have a sonogram done?
Yes, I did have a sonogram done, and I have the BPD for you.
What was that?
63.
63 mm, and when was that taken?
That was taken, what is today? It was taken on Monday.
Oh, okay. All right, so you are around 26 weeks now, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Have you been pregnant before?
No, this is my first pregnancy.
It's your first pregnancy. Okay. All right. So to have the procedure done, yes, we can still do it. We can do the procedure as soon as tomorrow if you like. It's a 3-day process. The fee to have the procedure done at this stage is $6,200.
Okay. And you said it was a 3-day process?
It's a 3-day process, yes.
So it'd be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell me what the procedure is like?
Sure, hold on. Can you hold for 1 second? My phone is ringing. Can you
Yes.
hold for 1 second?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, what exactly you need to know, ma'am, so I can help you better?
Oh, well, I was just wanting to know what the procedure was like.
Well, it's a 3-day process. So the way we do it is that we dilate the cervix 2 days prior to the procedure day. And then on the 3rd day, we do the procedure when you are completely asleep. So you don't feel or hear absolutely nothing.
Oh, okay. Okay, and let's see. So you're saying tomorrow, if I can't do it tomorrow, what would be the next closest?
The next available won't be until next Tuesday. And the Tuesday, the fee is $7,200.
Okay, and I could still do it. How far into the pregnancy will I be then on Tuesday?
Probably 26 weeks and some days.
6 pro-life activists were convicted of face violations in January for a similar protest at an abortion mill in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. One of them, Heather Idoni, was also convicted in the D.C. case and reportedly suffered a stroke while being held in a Virginia jail. The Tennessee pro-lifers will be sentenced in July. Utah Senator Mike Lee and Texas Representative Chip Roy have introduced a bill in Congress to repeal the FACE Act. In an opinion piece published in Newsweek earlier this month, the pro-life Republicans wrote, "When President Bill Clinton signed the FACE Act into law in 1994, the legislation was meant to protect abortion clinics, pregnancy centers, and places of worship from violent attacks. In practice, it has become the Department of Justice's favorite tool to attack pro-lifers and people of faith." The Arizona Supreme Court on Monday delayed implementation of a law that would protect nearly all babies from abortion. Attorney General Chris Mays requested a 90-day delay before the law can be enacted. As you may recall, the Arizona legislature passed legislation 2 weeks ago repealing the abortion law that was drafted in 1864 and enforced until 1973. But that new legislation does not kick in until 90 days after the legislature closes its session. Last year's session closed on July 30th. If that timeline is repeated, the pro-abortion law could not be implemented before early October. Basically, abortion advocates in the state, including Governor Katie Hobbs, want to prevent the law protecting babies from ever being enforced. But even if it is enacted, however briefly, Hobbs has said she would not prosecute abortionists who break the law. A new study funded and performed by pro-abortion organizations and individuals has concluded that it's perfectly safe for women to receive abortion pills in the mail without ever seeing a doctor. The study probed the experiences of 510 mothers who had chemical abortions from January 2020 to May 2022. The women studied had abortions at 9 weeks or earlier. Abortions were completed for 499 of the mothers, but 27 had to take a second dose of misoprostol to expel their dead babies from the womb. 10 women required a surgical abortion after the chemical method failed to kill their children. One mother chose life for her baby, giving birth to a healthy newborn. 24 adverse events were reported, with 17 mothers seeking treatment in an emergency room and 3 being admitted for serious complications. One mother required a blood transfusion and another was given antibiotics for an infection caused by an incomplete abortion. 2 things to consider regarding the study. One is that chemical abortion is now being prescribed for mothers up to 11 weeks or later. And the second is that the Federal Food and Drug Administration is no longer interested in tallying adverse effects. The agency is only keeping track of mothers killed by chemical abortion, and those numbers are kept under wraps. Last week, I reported that a study in the United Kingdom found that 39,000 mothers have been treated at hospitals in England and Wales for complications following chemical abortion. In a related matter, the pro-abortion organization We Count reported this week that every month, 8,000 women in states that protect babies from abortion, including chemical abortion, receive deadly abortion pills in the mail. Pro-life undercover journalist David Daleiden won a rare victory in court this week. In 2015, Daleiden released secretly recorded videos showing Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers discussing the harvest and illegal sale of aborted baby body parts. No charges were brought against any of the perpetrators, but under then California Attorney General Kamala Harris, Daleiden and a colleague were arrested and charged with a variety of civil and criminal actions, and Daleiden was prohibited from releasing the rest of his videos. On Wednesday, federal judge William Orrick, a Planned Parenthood supporter, denied a motion by the abortion seller and the National Abortion Federation to hold Daleiden in contempt for allowing some of the unreleased footage to be shown during a congressional hearing convened by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Orrick affirmed that members of Congress have the authority to release the never-before-seen footage and that Daleiden has the right to republicize it once it has been shown in Congress. Planned Parenthood and their big abortion allies have fought to keep this damning and incriminating undercover footage censored from the public eye for over 8 years, Daleiden said. Now it will all start coming out. Oral arguments were heard yesterday in a case challenging a Vermont law that restricts the services that pregnancy help centers can provide to mothers. The case, National Institute of Family and Life Advocates versus Clark, is targeting a law signed a year ago by Governor Phil Clark that pro-lifers say suppresses free speech. And finally, want to order some deadly abortion pills? There's an app for that. The Planned Parenthood Direct app lets mothers up to 10 weeks pregnant answer some questions and provide an Illinois address, hotels included, where the pills can be mailed to them. Planned Parenthood affiliates in Maryland, Washington, and Hawaii also dispense chemical abortion pills through the app. And that's abortion in the news. Joe Biden has agreed to 2 televised debates with former President Donald Trump, with the first set for June 27th on CNN and the second to take place September 10th on ABC. Trump is hoping to convince the nation once and for all that Biden is too old for another 4 years in the world's highest profile job. The Biden team insisted the debate take place inside a TV studio with both candidates outfitted with microphones that automatically cut off when a speaker has reached his time limit. Biden also will get his way after insisting that just the candidates and a moderator will be present, but no audience. Biden also wanted it to be just him and Trump, but CNN announced that any candidate polling above 15% can take part, so it likely will be just the 2 of them. The first debate will take place before either man is officially his party's candidate. Biden is hoping to get a boost in polls that show him trailing Trump in most of the battleground states. Biden and independent candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. this week tried to walk back their support for third trimester abortions. Kennedy got flack for an interview he did in which he said he opposes any government restrictions on abortion, even if it's, quote, full term. Days later, following pressure from his campaign staff, Kennedy said, once the baby is viable outside the womb, it should have rights and it deserves society's protection. Now Biden is saying he also does not support abortions at full term. No, the president doesn't support full-term abortions, as he's made clear many times. He thinks Roe got it right, said Lauren Hitt, a spokeswoman for his re-election campaign. Biden often talks about restoring Roe, but the bill he supports, the Women's Health Protection Act, would eliminate every restriction on abortion across the nation, stripping states of their rights to regulate the procedure and making full-term abortion available everywhere. An interesting side note, 17% of voters in battleground states blame Biden for reversing Roe. Trump and Biden both won their primary elections in West Virginia, Maryland, and Nebraska this week, but U.S. Senate races in those states were the real story. In Maryland, former Governor Larry Hogan, a pro-abortion Republican, will face off against Democrat Angela Alsobrooks, Prince George's county executive. If she is elected, she would be only the 3rd black woman elected to the United States Senate, and she has said that on her first day in office, she would co-sponsor the Women's Health Protection Act, which has not yet made it to the Senate floor for a vote. In West Virginia, where pro-life Democrat Joe Manchin is stepping down from his Senate seat, Republican Governor Jim Justice, who is term limited, will run against Democrat Glenn Elliott, the mayor of Wheeling. In September 2022, Justice signed a law protecting nearly all babies from abortion. Elliott has said he would like to see that law repealed. In Nebraska, pro-life Senate incumbents Pete Ricketts and Deb Fischer, both Republicans, won their primary battles despite neither being endorsed by the state Republican Party. Senator Fischer will challenge nonpartisan candidate Dan Osborne, and Ricketts will take on Democrat Preston Love Jr., who was unopposed in the primary. Continuing a trend that has seen pro-abortion governors meddling in the affairs of other states, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear will speak at a pro-abortion event next month in neighboring Tennessee. Some observers believe he is trying to increase his name recognition with an eye on national office. He has pledged to serve his full term, which ends in December 2027, but will not comment on a potential run for the White House in 2028. Both Tennessee and Kentucky are enforcing laws that protect most babies from abortion. That's political news in a nutshell. A healthy baby girl weighing nearly 10 pounds went home with her grateful parents this week, 6 months after she was delivered at 22 weeks and 3 days at a Chicago area hospital. Baby Nyla's mother, Nakia Haywood, was diagnosed with preeclampsia, a high blood pressure disorder that can threaten the lives of both mother and baby. A decision was made to deliver Nyla just over halfway through the pregnancy, even though there was a substantial risk the baby might not survive at that early gestational age. This is how an ABC News affiliate in Chicago reported the story.
Nearly 6 months after her miracle birth, baby Nyla finally went home today. A huge send-off party at Silver Cross Hospital in New Lenox gathered dozens of elated staff, family, and friends. Nyla Nation is what they call themselves.
We have so many family, friends who are so excited, and they pray for us and took care of us, and everyone's ready to celebrate this little one, for sure.
Nyla Brooke Haywood is the youngest baby ever born at Silver Cross Hospital, delivered at just 22 weeks after her mother, Nakia, was diagnosed with preeclampsia.
It was a very scary time. I'm not gonna lie, it was very scary.
Nyla is what is known as a micro-preemie. The odds were stacked against her. With only a 10% survival rate, doctors went into the delivery room prepared for the worst.
She cried at birth, which is a little whimper, but it was a cry. Her heart rate always remained over 100, which for us, that's where we want it to be. So she came out fighting right off the bat.
But that was just the beginning. A team of up to 15 people was dedicated to Nyla during those first minutes and days.
Nyla's eyes were still fused, her tiny lungs were very underdeveloped, and her skin was thin and translucent.
And then there was the matter of her size. At birth, Nyla weighed 1 pound, 1 ounce. Fast forward to today, she's now a healthy 10 pounds.
I just don't have the words, in all honesty. We're just super grateful that she's here, she's healthy, and she's doing amazing.
Nyla does have some residual scarring on her lungs, so she is being sent home with oxygen, and she will require regular checkups to watch out for complications that sometimes arise with micropreemies. But as of right now, doctors say Nyla's future looks bright.
What no news outlet mentioned in its coverage is that Nyla's parents could have made a different choice. Rather than delivering her and providing the intensive treatment she needed to survive, she could have been aborted instead. Her age would have worked against her there too, because an abortion for a baby at 22 weeks is a painful and barbaric process that literally removes a living, pain-capable baby from her mother's womb in pieces. Abortions for babies at 22 weeks are legal in 8 states where there are no gestational limits, in 4 states that set the cutoff at 24 weeks, and in 12 states, including Illinois, that use viability as the cutoff without precisely saying when that might be. Was Nyla viable? You bet she was. Thank you so much for joining me on Pro-Life Primetime News, produced at Priest for Life headquarters in Titusville, Florida. If you like this show, please consider making a donation to prolifegift.org. These donations help fund all of our work here at Priest for Life, which enables us to continue educating, equipping, and activating God's people to end abortion. For all your pro-life news updates during the week, please follow us on X at Pro-Life News Show, and please make sure to tune into our other shows like Just Ask Janet and Praying for America. Go to endabortion.tv for the schedule. I'm Leslie Palma. Remember, life is the only choice.